The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Morty? The gym leader looked back up. Gold rose unsteadily to his feet and gazed at his teacher with pity. I'm sorry. It took me a minute to think it through. You're in a pinch. Karen's forced you to choose between me and all your friends and family. Yet again, Morty averted his eyes, but he scratched his cheek and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Around him, the floating purple shapes of his ghost Pokemon began to appear. But there's a third option that you saw with your own eyes just now. Don't continue letting your fear of Karen or anyone with power distract you from it. You know what it is. You've known it since before I was born, and it is higher than all earthly troubles. The high grass beside Gold began to rustle with movement, but he kept his eyes on Morty. The gym leader's face lit up in alarm, and he pointed with panic. Something's coming! Get away from there, Gold! I can't protect you! 3 hulking stag beetle Pokemon emerged, with mouths that bubbled angrily through vertical rows of gnashing teeth, their spiked pincer horns clashing fiercely atop their heads. Here was a hunting pack of predatory pincer, drawn by instinct to the nearest fleshy meal with no Pokemon defenders. Morty's ghost surrounded him like a protective veil, but Gold had no more protection than the clothes on his back. Yet even now, Gold felt only serenity in his heart, and he closed his eyes. Back in Ilex Forest, in Spirit's presence, he'd experienced a subtle revelation. Since then, he had lost sight of it in his worldly concerns, but in a sudden epiphany, it had returned, an assurance that, in the end, everything would be all right. He could hear the hunter's clawed feet pounding the ground as they rushed at him. Thank you, Spirit, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up on me. At once, there was a brilliant burst of light, so potent that he felt it through his eyelids. It was just like the first time he had met the Phoenix, where the lights were all-consuming, yet neither painful nor offensive to his vision. He opened his eyes to flames all around him, licking and burning, but not consuming. He barely heard the pincer around him gurgle with panic as they scuttled back into the concealing safety of the tall grass. Morty, too, had issued a cry of shock, and Gold could hear him entreating desperately. Come out! Gold! If you're alive, come out of the fire! Come on, please! As you wish. Gold stepped forth from the flames, and as he walked, the fire diminished behind him. By the time he stood in front of a stunned Morty, the light of it had dimmed to nothing. Morty's throat made a single clicking noise as he swallowed dryly. Then, the gym leader fell before him, prostrate, his head bowed low. Gold looked down at him, slightly taken aback. What's this about? He asked. Morty trembled visibly. I doubt it, he wheezed, keeping his head low. Even after sensing what she had done for you in your younger days. Even after seeing her defend you from Karen's wrath just a little bit ago. How can I call myself a believer? Morty, get up, Gold said uneasily, disturbed at the shift in his behavior. I am not worthy, whimpered Morty. Emissary of the Phoenix, after how I've treated you... Stand up! Gold exclaimed with force. Don't bow to me! I'm only human like you! Sheepishly, Morty rose. Gold relaxed his stern expression and favored him with a tired smile. I forgot too, he admitted, about how much she really cares for us. But she knows that we forget, and that's why she reminds us at times. Morty stared at Gold, still attempting to reconcile the boy he had known growing up with the young man before him who had emerged unscathed from the fire. His eyes suddenly lifted past Gold's shoulder and shone with curiosity. "What's that?" he asked. Gold turned and looked where Morty indicated on the pavement behind him. There, piled on the ground, practically glowing like burnished bronze, was a small stack of golden berries. Privately, Gold suspected that they might have been brought with the otherworldly fire and left to find for when it receded. "Gold berries!" Morty gasped, approaching them for a closer look. "Do you know how hard these are to come by? They're really nutritious, too!" Gold knelt and picked up one of the bell-shaped fruits. With silent thanks, he bit into it and relished the richness of its sweet tang. Morty watched him eat with reverent silence. After he was about halfway through it, Gold noticed and indicated to the pile. "Want one? There's plenty." Morty shook his head. "I shouldn't." He glanced nervously over his shoulder in the direction that Karen had vanished. "Is it a good idea for you to linger here?" "Nothing can hurt me tonight," Gold answered, wiping his mouth with his sleeve. He tilted his head at Morty. "Are you in a hurry to leave then? What about that oath you gave Karen?" A resolute look crossed Morty's face, and he stood straighter. "She told me to keep you here until your trial by fire," he said, crossing his arms. "But as far as I'm concerned, you've had it. I don't care if I lose my license. I'll tell the whole world about this night." Gold nodded and dropped to his knees once more. He dug at the earth by the edge of the path, pausing now and then to flick dirt from his fingers. Morty looked curiously at him again. "Now what are you doing?" "I'm gonna bury the seed," replied Gold, regarding his dirty hands. "This would be a lot easier if I still had my stick." "You shouldn't bother," Morty advised, checking behind him again. "Goldberries occasionally grow in the wild, but scientists have yet to figure out how to cultivate them, even in identical conditions. It's the strangest thing, but that's why they're so valuable." Gold shrugged, pressing the seed gently into the dirt. "I didn't know that, but it doesn't matter. Spirit told me to plant seeds, so that's what I'm going to do." Morty watched him complete the burial and gather up the other gold berries before he spoke again. "Spirit," he murmured softly. "So that's what the rainbow Pokemon calls herself?" "Yeah." Gold turned and headed down the path with his armload. Behind him, he could hear Morty's footsteps following. "The legends always referred to her only as Ho-oh, the Phoenix," he said. "But she gave you her proper name?" "Do you want to hear the entire story?" asked Gold, grinning in good humor. "We've got the whole night ahead of us for walking, and I'll be telling it a lot. I may as well have some practice."